Hi, everybody, and welcome to Utah Motorsports Campus. Once again, the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Utah, and it is time to go GTS Sprint X racing. And this weekend, the final two rounds of the Sprint X Championships for the GTS category, and it couldn't happen at a oftentimes more challenging location in very many ways. Obviously, I'm Greg Creamer. Great to have Calvin Fish alongside Ryan Marine covering the action down in pit lane. And as we take a look at this track, Cal, today, it's breezy, it's very warm, and there's a lot of this salt desert dust that's in the air. It's going to be a tricky day.
Very tricky day. Extreme temperatures here, Greg, that everyone anticipated, but until you get here and start to run in traffic, you really don't know how the car's going to handle this. You got a pit stop where there's a lot of heat soak potentially into those race cars. They have electronic systems that may shut the car down, so everyone's just got their fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting day for sure, and we've already had a race here, and one of the biggest things we were watching was people trying to get cool air into those cars. This is a much bigger field. That's going to be all the more challenging as a result.
Well, it's hard to find clean air. You got this massive field here today, so if you're mid-pack, it's tough to find clean air. You can maybe run a little bit out of line like we saw in the touring car event a little bit earlier in the day, but even so, just the heat around you when you're in pack racing will be extreme and cause concerns for all of the engineers trying to run these race cars.
Absolutely, and of course, for our Porsche track preview, just going to talk about this track just a little bit, Cal. Just a little over 3 miles in length, 15 turns. It's the outer loop, which is a very quick flowing track circuit here. And it's tricky. I mean, you like into the first turn, you look at it on a map, looks pretty simple, but it falls away a little to the apex. Little things like that are really a bit of the idiosyncrasy of this place.
It really is. You got that long straightaway, so there's great drafting potential if you can keep the car in the draft and not get the temperatures screaming high. Then it's a wide open entry there that you can have someone try and cut across your bow. So if you poke your nose in there, you may not get the job done. The Black Rock hairpin turn 5, that's really a great overtaking opportunity. Heavy brake zone down into there, and then you got a very tight low-speed corner, so that's the prime opportunity. The attitudes, you come up and over the hill there. Can you use a little bit of the curves? Is the car compliant there? And I think the last set of corners coming through, there's the attitudes. We're looking at them right now. You can see the elevation change through there. And coming through the last few corners, that's really going to be the key question, how your car's set up there to get the exit speed onto that front straightaway.
And you can use that last turn. There's some banking in that corner they call release. Problem is to really take advantage of it, you have to open up the entry to get the run down there. And if somebody's right on your 6 and looking to get by you, you have to defend a bit, and that can really kind of handcuff you onto that straight. And it's only 3/4 of a mile long.
That's it, right? There you see some of the construction that's taken place there through the final few corners, and if the wind does come up, it's going to throw that dust and sand across the race circuit and change the grip level.
So as you're watching this track circuit here, obviously they got some great corner names: Clubhouse, Wind Up, Release, and that's the section of track you're looking at here. And as they pan over here, there is that straight, and it goes off into the distance. And you can see there's mountains in the background, but they're hidden by haze from those California fires, so it's reaching even here at this point. So, well, that sets the stage, and it is about time for us to get this one underway. Again, only 2 rounds of GTS Sprint X Championship action to go. Let's get down to Ryan Marine down at the front of this beautiful grid.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anne-Marie Fuller from Perfect Paw Prints Animal Rescue to give the command to start engines.
Drivers, start your engines!
And that is how you do that.
That was best one of the year, I think.
Absolutely. Some serious authority there. And that's all part of the program that Mark Clennon and his lovely wife, Jamie, they put together this program. And she, in particular, does this program with a company that helps find funding for animal rescues around the country. And she found this Perfect Paw Prints group here, and that's just fantastic. The Racing for Paws organization helping them out and bringing them here. So a huge thanks to them, and a huge thanks to Perfect Paw Prints. And this field set up and ready to go. And it's deep, Cal, not just in terms of number, 33 cars looking to take the green, but talent.
Yeah, there really is, and there's a lot on the line here today. As you said, it's the final weekend of the Sprint X competition, and potentially titles will be actually achieved here today. I mean, if some of these points leaders can have a really good day, not inconceivable those titles.
Absolutely. The field makes its way out, so that leads us into of Pirelli storylines, and you just alluded to the first one there, the points battle at the front, and the interesting qualifying lineup here. The guy who sits third in the points, they put it on pole. That's a point. Everything helps.
Yeah, it really does. We're talking about Sofronis and Walsh, who have the championship lead, a 25-point lead, which is equivalent to a win. So if they can maintain that gap at the end of the race, there's only one race to go tomorrow, the title could be theirs in clinch. You talked about that bonus point for Paul. Scotty Maxwell knew that he needed clean air with his Mustang around this racetrack, and he's starting in the right place from the pole. The significance is that bonus point goes to his teammate as well, Jade Buford, who's in the thick of the title chase.
Absolutely. Then we move back a little bit. We've had just the form we've seen from that number 50 Team Panos group, and good qualifying run there outside of the front row. They look very racy here.
They look very racy, and James went on a tear a little bit earlier this season. And there's also a great AM-class battle as well. Aurora Strauss, Stavely, Drew Stavely now has a 16-point lead. That's his home racetrack. And, you know, that is significant that if they have a good day, maybe they can clinch it today as well. But Aurora Strauss and John Miller, they haven't given up. They said, we're going to go out, win both of these races this weekend. And there you see that bright blue, Tiffany blue, number 36. That's this Aurora Strauss's car that John Miller will be starting here today.
And they have speed, and they've had it this year as well. Let's get down to the front of the grid once again, or into pit lane now. Ryan Marine, what are you hearing here as we get set to go?
I'll tell you what, guys, one of the coolest stories of the weekend is the pairing of Johnny O'Connell and his son Kanan O'Connell in a Robinson Racing Camaro here this weekend. I talked to both of them yesterday, and they were really over the moon. There's no doubt about it. They've been looking forward to this a long time. Johnny told me he remembers when Kanan was just 2, he was watching races that had Mario and Michael Andretti in it, and he thought to himself, you know, that would be cool one day. Well, not only are they racing in the same race, they're sharing the same car. It's a big step. They know it's a big challenge. They have not tested this car. Their first time in it was earlier this weekend in practice. But nonetheless, Johnny O'Connell told me no matter what happens this weekend, he's going to have some rocking chair memories for the rest of his life.
That's an absolutely perfect way to put it. He had talked about back in the day watching Mario and Michael when they would race together as teammates in different cars.
Right.
Then they went to Le Mans as teammates, and he said, I just sat there thinking about how cool would that be? He goes, I'm living that now.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Kane O'Connell, I mean, I know he'd love to be right at the sharp end of the grid, but out-qualify Andy Pilgrim in a similar race car. That's a tremendous performance, and they'll roll off the grid in the 12th position today.
Yeah, I was talking with Johnny a little bit earlier, and he's like, I got to remember, less downforce, less downforce. So it's going to be fun. There is a look at the number 74, of course, the team car, Shane Lewis and Gar Robinson sharing that. Had a pretty solid qualifying run as well. We're getting ready to go. Keep an eye on that red number 51, Panos. That is Preston Calvert. He got a great first win here in GTS competition in Portland. He's got some momentum as well. Here we go. 60 minutes of competition. Pit stops about to unfold. It's going to be a great day, a great race, and leading him up to the line, one of the most experienced lads in the business, Scotty Maxwell. Green flag flies. We are racing at Utah Motorsports campus. Maxwell edges just a little bit ahead of Keegan, but here comes John Miller.
There was a massive compression there from about the fourth row back wreck, and look at this, Miller to the inside. He's looking for the lead as they hit the brake zone for turn 1.
He's through. Can he hang on to it?
Well, we talked about it. I spoke to he and Aurora Strauss yesterday, and they said we're going to go out and win these 2 races and then see where the chips fall.
Well, one of the things, these BMWs are turbo cars. Now, they do a track-related balance of performance, but with this heat in particular, turbos run hot, but if the intercooler's working a little bit, they can still have that little bit of an advantage, and he had some speed on that start.
He really did. Things settling in here. Good to see everyone get through this first lap relatively unscathed, and that's not easy to do. Really close there, a little bit of a lock up there. Gottsacker looking to the inside of Mueller there. Mueller's had a big start.
He has had a big start. I was talking to him a bit earlier, and he said it's just been a magical year. He said, I do a lot of BMW Club, NASA stuff. He said, I've done some pro racing, and he said, well, it's just been absolutely a treat to come here and go racing, and they've been very competitive. And we're seeing that again from this Epic Motorsports BMW team.
Good start there for Gar Robinson as well. He's got that number 74 car up into the mix, getting more and more confidence here. Made that switch from the Mercedes AMG over to this Chevy Camaro GT4 machine, and starting to show some pace here. Look at that.
Yeah, he is, and I think Harry Gottsacker, he knows he's a man on a mission too, coming in second in the points, and he is in full attack mode already on Gar. Here he comes, takes a look to the inside. Can he get anything done here?
God doesn't give it to him. Tires are still fresh, though. You can be pretty brave when those tires have got the grip and really jump on the middle pedal very late. You get 2 or 3 laps in, it's going to be a different story. Just spoke to Harry Gottsacker before the off. He's coming off that brilliant first victory at Poland. He said the car's good. He said, the Chevy Camaro, where he's now battling for position with, and the Mustang may have a little bit of straightaway speed, but he said, we have the handling, got good brakes. Looks like pretty even Steven there, though, coming down this front straightaway.
Boy, doesn't it? He did get a good run out of turn 15 for sure. But that's the one thing. If Harry can stay close and you don't have cautions in this one, you see how aggressive he was on the brake. If you don't have a lot of cautions, the other cars probably will use up tires a little bit more than that Sin. It is so finely balanced.
It really is. And the nice thing is, in the format, Sprint X format, driver change should happen between the 25 and 35 minute mark. No tire change, but some drivers can elect to go it solo, and that's what Harry Gottsacker does. So when he goes back out there, he's in the rhythm immediately. There's not like that warm-up period for the driver to sort of like hit his marks and get back into the groove.
And if you do that, particularly if you're in the Pro-Am category, you do have to carry a little bit more weight in the car, but he's made good use of it. Oh, and a little wide there for Gar Robinson, and Matt Fosnot, who's the reigning Touring Car A champion, makes the move and then shuts the door on Gar down into turn 6.
That was close. A good job by Gar Robinson in terms of getting on the binders, slowing it down and not losing the car, and staying at the back end of that Mercedes AMG, that bright orange machine.
And Fosnot drifting across to shut that door cost him a little bit of momentum. And you can see he's dropped off relative to Gottsacker in that red Sin R1 GT4. Here comes the orange and black Fuji Mercedes from Murillo Racing. And Matt Fosnot, and again, right on his 6 is Mueller, who's having another great start to this one. That lead group of 3, Miller's not getting away from him at this point.
He certainly isn't. And talking to Scott Maxwell before qualifying, then he went out and stuck the car on the pole. He said track position is key for us. He said, I don't think we have enough pace to drive through the field, but he said the car over one lap is very good. Certainly right now he's able to tuck the front end, and he said a lot of people just think we're all about power. We actually like high-speed corners. We like downforce corners. This new Mustang GT4 creates downforce. It's got great aero. He said, whereas some of the others can stretch us down the straightaway, and you see that right there. The BMW have been pretty tough here this weekend.
Well, you take a look at a map of this track, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, it's all high downforce aero corners, so he's getting into his happy place right about now.
Matt Keegan's hanging with these guys. Pano's team won on a tear like they did last summer, won 3 straight, and Harry Gottsacker would be right on top of the game to stop Ian James from taking another victory at Portland.
And I'll tell you, Keegan doesn't really have a lot of experience in racing. He was one of those late starters to it. But Ian James immediately said, I'm very high on this guy, and really sort of lobbied to get him into this team. Thought he'd be a great teammate. And after it took a little while to get the feel of the car, boy, he's got it now.
He really does, and he's a great addition to that Pano's team. And you said it correctly. Ian James was the man who picked it. Tom Mullins said, if Ian is comfortable with him, I will be too. Didn't get off to the best of starts, got involved in a skirmish up in turn 1 at Coda to start the campaign, but since that time has settled in very nicely, and you can see keeping that Pano's Avezzano at the sharp end of the field in the early going.
He got the glitch done early, and he has just put his head down since, and right now is hounding maybe the most experienced driver in this field, perhaps.
Yeah, Scotty Maxwell won so many titles, was involved with the development of this Mustang GT4 car, so he knows it like the back of his hand. And just stays extremely busy working for the Multimatic organization who builds these Mustang race cars.
Yeah, he's been instrumental in helping to develop an awful lot of great stuff coming out of that camp here. And, I mean, with that Ford GT, he played a role in some of that development as well. We're trying to find the number 88. That is the Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. And there he just flies through the shot. That is Henry Schmidt, Gregory Leafouge. And they are your Optima Batteries Best Start Award winner, moving up 7 positions in the opening lap. So congratulations to Henry Schmidt, doing a good job in that Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. Whoop, floated a little wide there as we were talking about him, and Kanan O'Connell drives down underneath.
Yeah, that was a pretty savvy move there. The young Kanan. Then you can see the BMW versus the Camaro. It just seems to have the edge here this weekend.
Yeah, it's an interesting story with Kanan, obviously. A Touring Car B winner, and he said, I've got connections with Chevy Sonic. Now up into a Camaro GT4. And I checked with the team, and I said, I said, what do you think about Kanan? And they said, we're not worried, man. He's impressed us from the first time he got behind the wheel of this. We think he'll be just fine. And he seems to be doing that. Somebody who has impressed very much this season is the co-driver of that leading number 36 ST Racing GPI BMW. And she is with Ryan Marine.
Yeah, Aurora Strauss, second in the Sprint X Championship, coming in here. Your co-driver leading this thing as it stands. You're very much in that championship hunt, so what's on your mind as your stint is coming up here relatively soon?
Right now, like you said, we're second in the championship. I couldn't be happier to have a co-driver like John Miller, and right now we've got nothing to lose. So every point counts, and thanks to the amazing guys at Samantha Tan Racing, and thanks to Nick Longy, our Shard Mule BMW is really, really good right now. So couldn't be happier, and it's really up to the two of us to make sure we keep that lead going.
I talked to you before the season, and you mentioned how special it is as a female driver driving for a female team owner in Samantha. That's almost unheard of. Not just now accomplishing the fact that you're out on track, but contending for a championship. What does that mean?
It's really special to me. This is only my second full season of competing in a professional series, so I never thought I would be here. If you had asked me if I could do this 6 years ago, I would say hell no. So it's a special moment for me just to be contending for a championship, but I wouldn't be a racer if I wasn't looking for that win. So we're going to race for it or die trying.
We'll let you get out of the sun. It's hot down here. Enjoy your stint.
I'll tell her, she's got skills outside of driving a race car, which are pretty considerable, especially for her experience, but a great musician, and also just got accepted. She'll be going to Harvard this fall. So a lot on the plate for this very talented young lady. And in John Miller, a few years ago in Pirelli World Challenge Touring Car action, he picked up the nickname Mr. Excitement because this guy just wheels it.
He really does. He's a great fit for that team and allows them to run in the M category. So he's kind of, I hate to point it out, John, but you're kind of flying under the radar. Just got a lot of speed for that category, but those are the rules. There's a lot of guys like that in our championship right now, but it allows them to switch up their strategy. Look, Maxwell down to the inside, opens up the door, and Scotty said this car's really good on the brakes. He uses it to good effect there and takes the lead.
And not only did he get the lead, did you see how he then parked him just a little bit and then used the torque to get out of that turn? And here comes Keegan thinking about getting underneath John Miller, and Miller covered that one.
Tricky racetrack. There's a lot of corners like that, Greg, where the guy in front of you to, get the best radius through the corner really opens up the door in a big way. And if you stick your nose in there gets to be a pivotal point in the true sense of the word that you can tip someone around. So you got to be careful making those moves, particularly when everyone's got good grip and they're going to come back at you.
Wow, look at Miller there using all the curbs in that second attitude.
Too much.
I was going to say all four tires off the ground. And you can do that once or twice, but that just sends tremendous loads through the entire drivetrain, doesn't it?
You're just in recovery mode, and again, talking about tire and grip levels, they'll start to fall off even though we're only 10 minutes in right now. There's a real sweet spot for about 3 laps where they give you the super grip, and then they plateau a little bit with a little bit less adhesion. But if you got good grip, you can maybe be a bit more aggressive and use those curbs up, but then the car's just going to slide on you, and then just recovery mode, and you're not being very efficient in getting off the corner with a good exit speed.
And here we go. Keegan getting a nice run out of that last turn. And it's a drag race now. But what's catching my eye watching Harry Gottsacker, that car is not sliding, moving, nothing. He is preserving P0s.
He is. And he's got a lot of confidence. Immediately after winning at Portland, he wasn't like all giddy about it. He was saying, let's go do it again.
Yeah. Getting that first one's nice, but he knew the mission, obviously, and he got Tom Milner sitting on the wall talking to him and going, keep the tires underneath it. We're in this, and they most surely are. That lead group of 4, as you can see, has opened up a margin now. It's about 3 seconds from Gottsacker back to Fosnot, so they're in their own little world at this stage. And watch Miller here. I thought that Keegan might, after having seen what Maxwell did, and then a late move, he tries to get down there. And I would have thought Miller may have protected a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think you got to do what Scotty Maxwell does, is just bury it in on the brakes with the ABS and get down at the apex and establish yourself.
Yep.
I think Matt right now is just kind of probing around, and that can get you in that no man's land where suddenly you can't get out of a situation and the cars come together and someone can get turned around. So I think he's got more pace than Miller. He's just got to be patient, but at the same time you can see Maxwell driving off a little bit.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, too, a lot of times when you're making moves like this, the biggest thing is you have got to be decisive.
Yeah, you do. You got to make your intentions known. Otherwise, once a driver recognizes the fact you're not going to go all the way through, you try again, a cut and paste move, he's going to chop you again. So you need to be efficient. You need to get those moves done cleanly. And like Maxwell did, once he had the opportunity to have a real go at Miller, he made it stick.
Into the clubhouse, now into windup. These last two corners are just long duration, 180-degree turns. Then you get into this last one, same deal, but then you throw a little banking at it as well.
Tell you what's significant now, looking at timing and scoring, Greg. Welsh, who's sharing that car with Sofronis, and they lead the GTS Sprint X Championship. Oh, cars everywhere here right now, just trying to figure out what is going on there. That's through the attitudes.
It's the second of the GMG Audis. Oh, two of the GMG Audis. Jason Bell in the yellow and black car, and the I think that's Sabo in the number 8 entry.
As those guys recover, just getting back to the Welsh story. He's dropped all the way down to 13th. Here's another look at this.
Yeah, and it looked like the Sabo in that Liberty Safe entry ran wide, and maybe Bell got a little bit of target fixation.
Yeah, it doesn't take much if you're just looking at what they're going to do and where they're going to go, and you miss your marks a little bit. See Keegan now putting the pressure on Miller once again, and Gottsacker just hovering there in the shadow. This time Keegan's down to the inside. Have to worry about Miller's tires here. Are they going away just that little bit? He gives Keegan a little love tap there through through the hairpin.
Well, yeah, we're just watching the way that Miller's bounding over everything. Gottsacker now shows the nose down into turn 6 and was smart enough not to force the issue, but he's going to certainly now try and get in the mirrors. He's got to be pretty obvious in the mirrors because that car's kind of low.
Yeah, for sure. You can't see it quite as much as a big Camaro up behind you or something like that. So, yeah, you got to be on your toes here.
You can see now that big off up at the approach to the attitudes. There's dust and debris all the way through this salt desert sand, all the way through the attitudes, and that changes the grip quotient completely as we watch Alex Welch right now heading up there.
He's down in the 13th spot, Greg. He qualified 4th, and as they run right now, their 25-point lead will be cut down to 10. So it is a totally different complexion here with, you'd have to think they're going to try and get back into the game a little bit, have a good efficient pit stop, maybe get James to do some of his cut and thrust and get back into the bigger points. But as they sit right now, it'd be a huge swing.
Massive. And James Sofronis is certainly capable of it. You remember what he did in the Sprint X round, the first of the two races, or the sprint round, first of the two races at Road America, where he ended up having to start at the back of the field and took second. I mean, he can do it, but the problem is, the conditions there are a lot different than the heat, the slippery, and the sandy sandpaper surface of this track. So, and these guys do not get a tire change. That's the other side.
Yeah, and Welsh right now is 20 seconds behind the leader. So if that continues to grow, that's going to be a lot of work for James Sofronis to eat back into.
And I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe we can get another look at the replay of the start, exactly what happened to Welch, because
there was a big compression there inside the top 10, and I think maybe some guys got a run on him, and he got out shuffled down into turn 1. And you got to think, you got to be conservative. Do you know what I mean? Talking to he and James Sofronis yesterday, they said we just got to stay out of trouble, just got to bring it home. Well, that's fine, but suddenly when one of your nearest competitors is leading this race and you're outside of the top 10, that strategy doesn't work when you times it by 2. So
exactly,
might have to have a different mindset unless things change dramatically here today, overnight, for the final race tomorrow.
Look here at the number 72, 74 Ranch entry of Kanan O'Connell. Just outside of the top 10 at this stage. And again, just trying to keep it in position here. Looking at, we did see Andy Pilgrim moved up a little bit at the start and is now up into 11th in the Black Dog Camaro.
You got to bet that his dad, Johnny O'Connell, is saying, don't use all the tires up, kid.
Exactly.
Give me something to fight with at the end of this one. No tire change unless one is damaged during the course of the mandatory pit stop. Beautiful float job there. He is using those curves. That's pretty to watch.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, that was nice.
Use the curves to rotate it a little bit. Yeah, that's spectacular stuff. Really attacking as well. As we look at Welch, I think we may have found that replay of the start. Let's see if we can see. There he is, center of the screen.
Yeah, well, he started on the outside of the second row, and suddenly he's going into this first corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then one of the Camaros gets to the outside of him. And at this stage, he's just trying to find a spot. He's just trying to pick like being in a draft on an oval. He's trying to find a slot to get back into.
Yeah, he got the classic freight train on that, obviously. And after showing you that, we're going to swing down to Ryan Marine, who's found the Global Motorsports Group pitted co-driver and points leader, James Safronis.
Hoping to get a little bit of clarity from James about what happened. The guys just saw the replay of the start of the race. Do you have an update on what Alex is dealing with in the car right now?
Well, unfortunately, it's a little toasty here in August in Salt Lake City. So cars run a little hot. We hit some limp mode issues, so we had to back it down. And I told him, I said, just, short shift a little, maintain water and oil temps, and just hang in there. And so it's just a matter of just running some warm temps in dirty air behind some of the cars, and that's not going to help. So he's poking out when he can, managing the temps. We've got Audi here, so, we just got to hang in there.
Is this something that can be resolved during the race, or are you kind of stuck in this situation for the rest of this one?
Well, I don't think we can run competitively. He's got to pull back. We're running several seconds off our normal race pace. So during the pit stop, there's not much we can do. We can't plug in. Basically, not enough time. So we just have to survive. And then just the race tomorrow is a couple hours earlier, so we got to hope that we can manage the temperatures, and Audi will get to work over the night to see what they can do.
Are you concerned at all about reliability? You need to get to a certain point in the race to score points, and with the championship certainly in mind here in the Sprint X finale.
There's some built-in safety measures with the Audi, so it should not do anything catastrophic, but we just can't run competitively, and that's the frustrating part. So we got to lick our wounds, just finish this race, get the points we can, and then regroup for tomorrow.
Well, good news, guys, is they did come in with a bit of a buffer in the championship, but it's going to put a lot of pressure on this team tomorrow.
It is, and there's pressure up front as well. Scott Maxwell's 55 PF Racing Mustang, lots of smoke emanating from the back of that car, and Matt Keegan in that Panos is in full attack mode. Doesn't seem to be affecting speed. Keegan swings, takes a look at it. There was that indecision. I think if he'd gone for it, he may have been there, but that smoke's got to be of concern.
Well, it certainly is a concern, but I think looking at the dynamic there into the brake zone for turn one, I think Keegan thought he was late enough on the brakes, and Maxwell just took it in half a car length deeper. There you see that smoke really strong there coming through turn two.
It's interesting. More on when he turns right, and you wonder if that isn't some sort of a differential seal or something that's letting go.
Certainly still seems to have pace.
Yes, it does.
I thought it was just going to drop off like a rock there as he went down the front straightaway. There's that moment. Maxwell wasn't sure if Keegan was committed. Certainly the Panos looks a lot stronger grip-wise and doesn't have smoke emanating from either like the Mustang. So you'd have to say they're favorites right now. Scotty really acute angle in there. There's nowhere to go with it, though, unfortunately, for Keegan coming off that corner.
Yeah, and the question is just what is that smoke and how long is that Mustang going to stay healthy here? And Keegan, there it is again. And again,
it's getting worse.
Yeah, and those right-hand corners, it really starts pumping it out.
When it stops, it's not a good sign either.
Exactly.
And for Jay Buford, he might have been looking at Alex Welch's issues and dropping deep in the pack, thinking maybe this championship is potentially on, but he's just got to hope this car survives this race.
And with that amount coming out of that car, I just don't see how that's going to be possible.
Yeah, I think it's probably drive line versus engine, rear axle or something like that, half shaft seal possibly. And if they can just somehow get it home. And getting back to the Safronis issue with that car, I spoke to them yesterday about that. They were very concerned. It actually happened after their pit stop at Portland, if you recall. Also, Oshibach nearly ran over the top of James Safronis when he exited pit lane. The car was in that engine preservation mode. And here we see Adam Merzon's car on pit lane. And what they did here, Greg, they actually adjusted their pit box position because they felt when during the pit stop, there's a lot of heat soak there. So when James Safronis takes off, he's got a little bit further run down pit lane to try and cool that car down.
All right. And just saw that stop by the number 23 Case-It Racing by Flying Lizard entry of Adam Merzon. Ryan, give an update on what happened?
It looked like it was a flat right rear tire on that car. They came in and they changed it. It appeared that that car had been off track, and it showed some signs of contact as well along the right side. A few little dints and dings to indicate perhaps this cut tire might be the byproduct of some contact on track, but that's just my speculation.
Oh, look at this. Gottsaka deep on the brakes into Blackrock. He gets to the inside of Miller and clears him. What sort of pace did that Sin have now? Two leaders have established about a 2.5 second lead on Harry, but I think he's got a really good car and showing great patience here in dealing with these front runners and just gradually eating his way to the front. He looks ominous, Greg.
He does, and that's what I'm saying. That car, it's not sliding, it's not moving, he's not pounding curves. He is really taking care of those tires, and even in executing that pass, it was just smooth. There was nothing, he wasn't throwing it around. I think he's got a grasp of it. Even there, I mean, look how gently he worked that curve.
Yeah, could we see an Ian James, Harry Gottsacker battle at the end of this one for the win like we saw at Portland just a few weeks ago?
I hope so, because they are good.
It was entertaining, that is for sure.
Oh, it was great stuff. And talked to Harry after that in that first race when Ian got him late in the race, and I said, did Ian school you? And he went, oh yeah. He said, and I talked to Ian later, and he said, yeah, I never quite showed him how deep I could go.
Right.
And so when we got to that point, he thought he had it covered. The minute he moved, I just went in a little deeper. And he said, thing is, that never was going to happen again because Harry figured that one out now. You know, he's a quick study, this 18-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it's learning the tricks of the trade, putting a few more tools in your toolbox.
And big part of it, you can have raw speed, but racecraft is what wins races a lot of times. For sure. And you can see Harry's just growing by leaps and bounds in that department.
He certainly is. And I love John Baraki. I love his team. I love what he does, giving young drivers opportunities. And typically, when he's got the right pedaler behind the wheel, they're at the sharp end. So that's a testimony to him, the team, and this Sin chassis as well. Looking at the clock, Greg, 37 minutes, another lap or so, and that pit stop window will open.
And take us through that again. Unlike GT, there are no tire changes here.
That's correct, unless you have a damaged tire, and you have to pretty much beyond that. You need to demonstrate that the tire was cut down. You can't just use it for strategy and extra grip on one corner for the second half of this race. There needs to be a real issue with it. So it's just a driver change, but again, some of these cars are just having a single driver, so they'll just sit still. One little caveat, there's a bit of a quirk here with these high temperatures here. If you're doing a driver change, when the seatbelts are undone, the cars will be shut down. That creates a bit more heat soak, so for the drivers who are not getting out, they can keep their car alive and keep the engine running, as that Smoke and Maxwell car looks pretty desperate at this stage of the game.
Oh, man.
So that could be a factor as well. So pit lane opens in about 1 minute 20 seconds, and it doesn't have to be the leader to take that opportunity first. As soon as the clock gets to that point, by the 25 minutes to go, so 35 minutes into the race, everyone has to have at least been on pit lane. Not done the full service yet, but be on pit lane or out of pit lane.
And there is a minimum amount of time you need to spend in pit lane, including driving through it. What is that here?
67 seconds is the number here. So they allow you 45 seconds to do the driver change, then they add what we call the pit lane delta, which here it costs you 22 seconds to drive down pit lane at the 35 mile an hour speed level.
So if you're under it, you have a drive-through penalty. If you're over it by a second or less, you're perfect. If you're over it by a second or more, you've lost 3 spots.
Absolutely, and that could be a real factor here, and you got two really good groups. Typically what we've seen with the Racer's Edge strategy, as soon as that pit stop window opens, they've been bringing Harry Gottsacker in. And we'll have to see what they do here today. He's not in the lead like he was at Portland when they were making that call, but certainly towards the sharp end.
And if for some reason you do happen to miss that pit window entirely, you still have to do your stop, but then you will have to do a drive-through penalty at that point as well. So it's vitally important, if you want to have any hope of this, to get in that 10-minute window, get your stop done cleanly, and get back out. And it is now open. Race control announces it, and the clock tells us the tail, who's the taker. And I was watching here, that number 36 BMW Miller, we saw it earlier in one of the touring car races, Cal. He comes out of the last turn and goes all the way to the other side of the track looking for anything in terms of clean air. So I wonder if maybe that turbo in that car, it helps at the high elevation, but when the temps are up, they can run a little warm. I wonder if he's struggling a bit. Yeah,
quite possibly. And I'm also seeing that car squirm around there under acceleration out of Blackrock hairpin. So again, it's you can't just manage your own stint. You got to manage the car over a 60-minute run here. So hopefully he's left a little bit of life in those Pirelli P0s for Aurora Strauss to try and take some of that championship lead out that Drew Staveley has. Staveley currently sits in the 10th position overall and 5th in the AM class. He's actually dropped a couple of positions here, Greg. So could be a bit of a point swing here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
With Miller and Aurora Strauss will be sharing that car here shortly in the lead. It would be a big point swing. 16 points was the lead coming into this weekend.
We're hearing a report that expect Maxwell in this lap, which you would think would be a good call. Pit window opens, get in and do your change.
Gottsaka came with him.
He came with him.
Which has been their form. It gets a little bit quirky. We saw it in the GT race at Portland. If there is a caution during this pit stop window, just depends where the pace car picks up you and how much time you gain or lose. So I think this is the safer bet. Some people will roll the dice a little bit more. And typically what you're going to do here, Greg, if you have two drivers that are vastly different in speed, if you've got your slower driver in initially, that's certainly not the case with Scott Maxwell and Buford. They're pretty evenly matched, but typically you want to get your slower driver out and maximize the drive time with a slightly quicker pilot.
And as you can imagine, that PF Racing crew down looking very intently at what might be causing these problems as Maxwell gets out with that sort of diffused maple leaf on the side of his helmet. And the crew down there, and you know if it's smoking like that, it's hot. So that's going to be something they're going to have to be a little bit careful of. And that smoke just continues to billow, Cal.
It really does. Scotty would have been seeing if he was feeling anything. Sometimes if it's something in the differential or something, you may be hearing a noise that's related to the smoke that we were seeing. And all of this, did they just extend it? It's been a pretty lengthy stop. We'll wait and see the delta here. Oh, Gottsaka, 65 seconds. They're 2 seconds under the minimum. That's going to cost him the race win, I would think. There's no way you're going to recover from that.
2 seconds under. So it's wow. That was a huge miscalculation. But very few people are getting it pretty close. Samantha Tan, Nick Whitmer doing that change. That was a good one. That was a 67.9, so they were within that second, Cal.
Yep, that's perfect. Well, perfect would be 67.01, I guess, but 67.00, but nonetheless, you're not giving away too much. What a shame for the Racers Edge team. They have managed these races very, very well, and I really felt that Harry was in with a great shot here today to repeat that victory at Portland, but he'll have to drive down pit lane, which will cost him about 22 seconds. So, you know, top 5 podium run maybe not out of the question, but I'd say it's going to be tough for him to rebound and grab the win.
So that stop for the 55, what did that end up ultimately being? That so
72, 5 seconds outside. I think there was just everyone was so focused on the problem with the race car that they really couldn't focus on the pit stop delta time. So Buford will have lost 5 seconds there to the main pack. Matt Keegan is on pit lane right now and to be switching over to Ian James. How tight do they want to cut it? So they look for another victory.
On the upside or downside, the smoke from the back of the 55 is looking a lot. So, but as you said, that's generally a bad sign. And, well, there it comes back again. The question is it just smoke? Is whatever it is, it's just, you know, smoking and it's not getting down on the track or on the tires?
67.3 for the 50 team, the Panos Avezzano team. Ian James now behind the wheel, and that is nice. Just losing 3/10 to the minimum delta.
That's really about as close to perfect as you get. You cut it more than that, you're running such high risk.
Yep.
So, well done.
Halfway through this pit stop window, they're elected to keep John Miller out there. He's in clean air right now. Just keep pounding the laps out, see what sort of gap he can build, and then if they can have a really clean pit stop time, similar to their sister car, no pun intended.
Well, and the just got a word from race control that the 55 is now getting a black flag. Corners are saying that it is indeed dropping fluid now, and that's going to be a huge concern. And part of it is it's a safety issue for them, because if it's dropping fluid that gets on the rears, that could pitch a car off in a hurry.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really see guys who were immediately behind him sliding around too much, so this will be devastating to Jay Buford, who's still very much in the mix for this championship.
So, interesting developments here by some of the key players in the points for this Sprint X championship. Sofronis and Welch struggling, having dropped back a bit.
70-second pit stop time for the Welch-Sofronis switch, so they lost 3 seconds to the minimum. But not bad, not a disaster.
Absolutely. And you wonder if some of that may have been just, as you said, just, you know, they'll give up a couple of seconds looking for a nice open lane to drive out, get as much cool as you can to that engine. etc. And the key is that they did the change, it restarted, and everything went well for them.
Yeah, the key is going to be now James is back on track. Is the car running correctly?
Right.
And not in the engine preservation mode, as they prefer to call it. Called it other things this year, and the engine guys come up to me and say, we really don't like that term.
And engine preservation sounds nice, doesn't it? The other question is when might we see...
Here he comes.
Here comes...
It's a shame.
It is. And also, when might we see Harry Gottsacker make that drive-through penalty? That's going to drop him. He's 8th right now. So that's going to be a big story. And watching that PF Racing machine work its way down into the pit lane.
3 minutes left for everyone to get on a pit lane at least.
So Miller's got to come. Miller, I mean, there's a few of them here that have got to get in here quick.
As I said, they'll keep pushing. If they feel their driver that's behind the wheel right now has a slight advantage in terms of lap times, they'll keep going. It's not like the new driver getting in is going to get fresh rubber and be more effective. You're basically running on well-worn rubber.
So they're working on that number 55 PF Racing Mustang. Here comes the 36 of Miller, and you would think he'd make the move into pit lane. He does, and he will turn over to Aurora Strauss here. And Preston Calvert and Toby Grahovic, Van Jonik, that group should all follow him in here.
They could have squeaked one more lap, but the problem with that is if you have an off or something goes wrong, it's suddenly a full safety car period. You can miss the opportunity, so you don't want to cut it too fine.
Calvert did come in as he runs solo in the AM category.
Great run. He's only 6 seconds behind, Greg.
I know. He has found form.
Confidence.
There's no question. Yeah. So here's that stop. There's Aurora about ready to climb behind the wheel of that Richard Mille BMW from ST Racing. And the way this works, you can have one person over the wall to help with the driver, and Ryan, they're underway.
Copy. So Aurora Strauss jumps behind the wheel. John Miller, a very impressive opening stint. These guys trying to make up a little bit of ground, and the team celebrating. They feel like they got that timing just right. And now Aurora's got to finish the job, guys.
Well, we're watching here. See what she does. 67. Not bad. A 68.3 second stop. So pretty effective.
67.7 for Preston Calvert. So the Panos boys and girls are on it this weekend.
They're nailing it. That's good stuff. And Calvert, we've watched him, in racing. And obviously when he was running, he's won here at this venue in big GT machinery in a Porsche in the year that we were sort of trying out the Sprint X format, he and Mike Lewis. But his thing, when you watch him racing in club racing, he does his best in the Mustangs that he was racing in club racing with Phoenix. He likes that big front engine V8. He loves the feel. Well, that's what this Panos is. And once he got used, I think, to the sort of idiosyncrasies of that particular car and figured it out, he's just really been on form.
He really has, and I tell you what, there's nothing like a win, and it was a very good win that he had at Portland. He didn't fall into that. He went out and earned it. And
he charged and made up, 3-4 spots, and on the last lap, halfway through it, a pass for the lead. Yeah, I mean, that was aggressive, hard-nosed, clean, fast racing.
And he returns to a track on the back of that where he's had success, as you mentioned, with Michael Lewis. So good times for Preston.
Yeah, no question about that. Watching, the window is now closed, so anybody who has not made it to pit lane, and it looks like everybody has, so everybody's clean there. So that's the good news, but Harry Gottsacker has yet to come through.
Oh, that's a shame. Gar Robinson was having a nice run here today. The exchange to Shane Lewis, 63.1, so they missed that by about 4 seconds.
Yeah, and they're running 5th and 6th right now in the overall order, Gottsacker and Robinson, so they're both going to need to make their way into pit lane at some point here.
I think we should see timing and scoring cycle here to show who our true leader is. And it is Ian James over Harry Gottsacker, and this is where we talked about that potential return of the battle. The trouble is Gottsacker's got to serve a drive-through penalty, and that will give Ian James a big lead here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, obviously, for Harry, but hey, that's more character building, learning curve stuff, I guess, that he's dealing with here. Miller and Strauss, after that sequence, still third, leading in the AM category. Calvert, 4th overall, Cal. That's a great run.
It's going to be interesting to see if he can follow up, because he's second in the M class right now, but behind Aurora. So sort of pace Preston has been demonstrating all day long, and you'd have to think that in these opening laps he'll take Aurora a lap or two to get into her full stride, and Preston may be able to eat into that lead. I think for Harry Gottsacker, he's getting pretty close to the time when he's got to make this pit stop, otherwise they'll stop scoring him.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait for that. Just get it done. And I think a car to maybe watch here, Cal, is going to be the Fuji Murillo Racing Mercedes. Christian Shimshak behind the wheel from Fosnot. They're 6th and looking very well placed in that Pro-Am run. And Lawson Aschenbach is taking over from Pilgrim, and he's up in 7th. Stavely, this is going to be a good one to the finish. And Sofronis, they did okay in that sequence here. They're up now to at least knocking on the door of a top 10.
And I think what John Meraki may be doing here by keeping Gottsacker out, they've got relatively clean air. He's got a fast car in front of him, which is really not inhibiting his pace. And I look at the gaps now. He's probably going to come out in about the 5th position, Greg, with a 22-second delta, I believe it is, down pit lane. So we talked about recovering from this to win. He'd basically have to catch back up to Ian James for the lead at this stage of the game. So that's unlikely, but going to be fun to watch and see if he can get on the podium. Here he comes.
Here he comes, and yeah, that's a good point. And if there's a caution, that could bring him right back into the mix here. So as you watch Harry do this drive-through, let's check in with Ryan, get an update on the 55 Mustang of Maxwell and Buford.
Tough days for several of our championship contenders, and of course that includes Harry Gottsacker. But as far as the Mustang is concerned, I went and checked with the team. They identified it as a half-shaft issue. They were able to rectify it on pit lane and sent Jay Buford back out. But an opportunity, it appeared earlier in the race, to try and make up some ground on the championship leaders, and it looks like that's going to go awry with the mechanical problems today.
Yeah, it certainly didn't affect pace, but it was going to be an issue nonetheless.
23.8 was the reality of driving through.
Okay. And that could be if he was a little conservative on the pit speed,
right,
too, right? Yeah.
But you know, the other guys are going to take them a while to get down there. So he's got a chance of a podium. He could maybe go chase after. Preston Calvert has got around Aurora Strauss for the 3rd position, for 2nd position. Right now it's Pano's 1-2 on the road, I believe, Greg.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, well, we saw the Sins have a 1-2 in qualifying. Oh, and we got a big off there. That's the number, I think that's the 40, yeah, the Co-College
last corner.
PF Racing entry of Pesic. And, yeah, just must have overshot pretty significantly there. It looks like there might be something wrong with that right front. Some smoke coming off it. I wonder if he got into something or something broke, Cal.
Yeah, he's trying to ease his way over to the other side of the road now.
Nice job. That's where you would turn if you were going to run the East course. That was a classic move. So maybe we can go back and see exactly what happened. Yeah, his day is done. He sensed something was wrong as he crawls up.
Yeah, Splitter was down a little bit on that side of the car as well, but it's hard to say.
Smoke. Yeah, so
he's not real happy. So I wonder if there was contact. Maybe he tried to make a move or someone got inside him through those last couple of corners. But either way, he's looking pretty frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That was a big lurid slide around the outside, too. Couldn't pick up the other car. Is that the 38? That's the other ST Racing
Whitmer,
BMW, Whitmer.
And,
oh, that's a shame. Whitmer was fastest in the first practice session here, and he said, well, I felt like we really had something here.
Gallagher behind the wheel, I believe, who was exiting the car.
With some stride.
Yes. He's a tough young boy.
He is.
He's having a chat with Mr. Whitmer. We're not sure how they got to that point in the action, but obviously fighting out a little bit of argy-bargy, and unfortunately the 40 is out for the day.
Yeah, and you can see some damage to that right front. Yeah, and Gallagher goes to the Ohio State University and looks like he could play in the team. So,
recap of the front here, Greg. James continues to lead now by almost 17 seconds. Gottsacker's up to 4th and is only 4.7 seconds behind Aurora Strauss, further 3 seconds behind Preston.
All right, and there is a look at that number 72, which is a great story. Johnny O back behind the wheel, first time behind the wheel of a race car of any sort since the finale of the championship last year. And Kanan is out, and he's with Ryan.
Yeah, Dad's in the car now. Caden O'Connell, though, just completed his first stint in GTS competition at Pirelli World Challenge. Tell us, how was it?
That was a memory I will never forget. That was so much fun. We actually had a great start. Robinson Racing gave us a phenomenal Camaro, and unfortunately about turn 11, I actually lost all electrical for a good 7 to 10 seconds. So really worried that I was going to be completely out of the race, and even more so that I was going to get freight trained. So phenomenal driving from the guys behind that avoided me. But kicked back on, and then we were back off to the races. So great first stint.
How many lessons did you learn today that you can't wait to apply tomorrow?
Couple lessons, but I've got a pretty good co-driver and a great coach, and so a lot of things that I've been taught, my whole life just playing in my head. So that was a huge help.
For the folks at home, how special is this to share the car with your dad? I know you were on the road with him all of the year last year, sharing hotels and debriefing, but this is something altogether different.
Man, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, anybody. And if you get a chance like this, obviously a phenomenal father-son experience, but anything that you can do, go out with your dad and have a great time, it's the memories that'll last a lifetime.
Some life lessons there for sure. Great job, Kanan.
Well, thank you, guys.
I'll tell you what, I think there could be very experienced guys in this field that could watch what he was doing through the attitudes and pick up on that. He was flying
driving
through there.
He really was.
Did you notice he's picking up on Johnny's and yeah, that's the son, that's for sure.
Pretty funny that Johnny O'Connell and Michael Cooper found themselves together on the racetrack there briefly. I think Michael's just got around it, but back to their Cadillac days of just 10 months ago.
Exactly. Great to have Johnny. I mean, certainly a 4-time champion in the GT ranks in Pirelli World Challenge, but his ALMS championships, his Le Mans wins. I mean, he is truly one of the icons of North American sports car racing, and having him back behind the wheel in any series is just a good thing. And I'll tell you, boy, Kanan's a chip off the old block.
Oh, he is. That was fun to listen to him and see some of the mannerisms.
Yeah.
He's watched enough winning interviews from his dad.
Exactly. And now Johnny has got a mirror full of green in that number 17 BMW. Stephen McAleer is starting to work him over, and Johnny's trying to figure out a way to get around the 88 there as well. Lia Fouge. Ooh, that's close.
Oh, look at him.
He's back at it.
Found the chrome horn pretty quickly. Found that in his back pocket overnight. He admitted to being a little bit anxious about being out of the car for so long, and it was a massive hit that he took in his final race last season, Greg, where he had that big impact and shook him up a little bit, and then not doing driving a race car in anger since that time.
Yeah.
He admitted to coming in this weekend. Johnny's never shy on confidence, but I think even for with the big break, he wanted to get back behind the wheel and make sure it was just like riding a bike, and he was immediately on it, all feisty afterwards, said, yeah, I'm going to go down and see Lawson and Cooper and tell them I was only a tenth slower than those guys.
Nice move there by Cooper, who is up on the wheel right now as he just sliced around the number 3 of Van Jonik. And he's making his debut, the driver of that number 3 in that epic BMW, his debut in Pirelli World Challenge and Pro competition. Another guy who's done a lot of BMW Club and NASA competition.
Gottsaka up to 3rd.
Look at
Got
this
around
run.
Aurora Strauss. We talked about the potential penalty top 5, maybe a podium. Well,
Yep.
He's in a podium spot.
He is, and I think he's got speed. He might be able to even get to 2nd. I don't think he's going to get to James without help, but it's possible he could get up and give Calvert a bit of a run.
Yeah, his fastest lap of the day is about a second quicker than Preston Calvert, and he's 5.5 seconds behind, so there's enough time on the board, possibly. It's going to be tight, though. I mean, if Preston keeps doing what he's doing
Right.
and hitting his marks, it's not going to be easy for Harry to catch him up and make a move.
That last lap, though, he was almost 2 seconds quicker than Calvert, so that's be fun to see. Then you see Aurora Strauss, and she now has Christian Shimshak really starting to put some pressure on that pale blue Richard Mille BMW and that Fuji orange Mercedes. He's swinging the outside. You need everybody to give you room, and she did. Maybe she was a little too gracious there even.
Yeah, I mean, you can't afford to lose too much lap time. I mean, right now, initially we had John Miller leading, and Stavely, who they're fighting to chase in the AM category championship, was down in 5th. Well, now Stavely's up to 3rd in class, and Aurora's running 2nd. So, and looking at the gaps there, Stavely's about 8 seconds behind. So Aurora, as you said, can't be too gracious here.
Yeah.
Cannot afford to give away precious seconds. Otherwise, he's going to find that Stavely's going to be in a rearview mirror before the checkered flag here this afternoon.
The best thing she could do right now is run with Shimchak, just kind of reference him a little bit, and try and find a little time, find a little speed. He's a good one. We used to call him the super sub for another series when he'd come in and it needed a last-second driver, and he'd come in and put the thing on pole. So
I had a little story this morning where he went out, he'd never raced here before. He went down the straightaway, got just past the start-finish line, hit the brakes, came down 3 gears and turned left onto the short circuit. And then he started looking around, where is everyone?
I believe running through his head at that point would have been, no, that's not it.
That's not it. There's the gap. You see Aurora heading down into turn 1, and just coming across the stripe there, left of our screen right now, is Drew Stavely.
There it is, that black and white with the orange trim, the G3 Janetta. He's right behind Mark Clennon. Oh, look who's right behind him right now is the number 14. So James Safronis has that car up into the top 10. So he's stemming the flow, at least at this stage, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is, particularly with Buford, who was his one of his main contenders. But Gottsek is having a good day, so it's going to be a big point swing still. Looking at it as they run right now, Gottsek would have 146, and Safronis would have 162. So it went from a 25-point lead down to potentially 16.
Well, and there's both Stavely and Safronis slicing by Clennon. So that's another spot. And it's important to recognize that the Pro-Am class, they get scored overall finish. So if there's Am cars in front of them, they don't disappear. They have to account for those points. So every pass they make, regardless of what class, certainly for Safronis here, is huge.
It really is. And looking at the gap between Calvin and Gottsek up front, it's Harry took about 1.5 seconds out of that gap. So it could be game on for that runner-up position. What a story it would be, though, if Preston Calvin could not only grab another Am class win, but make it a 1-2 finish for Panos.
Oh, well, that would just be a year that just continues to get stronger and stronger for that team. And they proudly carry on those cars. I always like to give a shout out Hometown Heroes, which is a charity that helps recognize and help families of first responders, firefighters and such. And with the smoke haze in the air from the California fires, you know there's an awful lot of people west of us at some serious risk and that are putting their lives on the line to help fight these fires. Those first responders deserve every bit of recognition. So big shout out to Panos and carrying Hometown Heroes in that recognition here. And there's a good look at Ian James, who what a great addition to this series. I mean, not just having Panos come over, but bringing Ian James. I mean, he is such a tremendously gifted race car driver, fast but also just the smarts.
He really does, just really savvy. He's had some great races last year, some classic battles with Lawson Archambault, so much entertainment last summer, and this year certainly the couple that he had with Harry Gottsacker at Portland were memorable as well.
Watching him wind his way through the turn 6 through Witchcraft now and heading up into the Attitudes. Just on a Saturday afternoon drive.
Yeah, and he looks like he's saving tires right now.
Sure
He's
does.
managing this gap. He's been running lap times almost 4 seconds off their best. So he's just making sure if there's a reset here, make sure I've got some tires left. He is a thinking driver, always looking ahead and thinking about what may be next in terms of the curveballs you get thrown in one of these races.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you one thing, Ryan Marine, Matt Keegan, who was so aggressive and fast early, clearly has given James a car with a lot of life left in it. What a great stint.
Yeah, let's ask him about that, Matt. Ian seems to have a good car under him still. You were conscious, I assume, about making sure he still had some tires and car left under him?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, our team did a fantastic job, gave us a great car. The balance of the car is fantastic, and this is just a great facility. We're just real happy to be here. Great track, having a lot of fun.
Take us through your stint. What were some of the highs for you?
You know, the start, I'm always concerned at the start. And John Miller had a great start, got down on the inside. Our group, we had good pace. We were able to gap the field pretty good, and there was some racing going on there. And so we had some there. I was just trying to just chip away and just have some consistent laps, and finally was able to get around John and then around Maxwell. So it was hot. It was real hot, but the car held up good, and I had a great stint and left Ian some tires, and he's doing a great job.
the Panos team running 1-2, and as it stands right now, in line for wins in both classes. How special would that be?
It would be fantastic. So, we're just crossing fingers, crossing our toes, and everything else we can cross. And, our guys do a great job in the car. It's a wonderful team. And we're just going to hopefully hang in there and pull one off.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he really did a nice job. And look at this. Here comes Gottsager and Calvert. And by the way, Stavely has gone around and made the pass on Aurora Strauss. And so that is a big, big swing there, obviously, in terms of this championship. And you look, too, Safronis now up into 7th and has gotten by Strauss as well. So Gottsager now, he needs to get Calvert to try and keep that margin alive a little bit.
Yeah, he certainly does, and he's getting ever close to him. Been a great drive by Harry. So unfortunate they got that.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we could have been looking at this picture, but instead of the 51, it would be the 50 that they're trying to get by.
And now this is going to be a bit of a test here for Preston Calvert, obviously, as he's got a very fast young gun that is there has run him down.
I don't think you'll fight him too hard, really. I mean,
either.
that class victory is super important and certainly great to add to that victory that he took at Portland. Just opens the door there for Harry.
And Preston's he's a pretty smart guy, obviously. He's they call him a neuro-ophthalmologist. So, I mean, he sees the big picture, if you'll pardon the pun. And but obviously, as you said, the AM Championship, Harry's not part of that. And James and the like, he's just going to let them go and do their thing. So he just let him come on through. So there it changes. Still, though, an overall podium, if he can hang on to it. And he's got 3 seconds to Christian Shimshak, who's up into 4th now. He is.
Fastest lap of the race goes to Matt Keegan, actually, who ran that 59.9, the only driver, I believe, to have broken the 2-minute barrier in the race here today. So they'll not only grab maximum points here today, but have the pole for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a point there, too, isn't it? So, one of the Robinson Racing entries, that's the 74. That's unfortunate. Gar Robinson and Shane Lewis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is he? Can he get? It looks like he's trying to get something reset here. He's not in a good spot. 7 minutes on the board, and if we went yellow, there may be the opportunity to get. Oh, now he's got life. For a moment there, I thought maybe there was a chance for Harry Gottsager.
And it's not a matter of playing favorites. We just want to see a Gottsager-James battle again, because they were so strong at Portland. Such fun.
Ian James has really been saving his tires, I feel. He's running 2:04s, nearly 4 seconds off their fastest lap consistently, just cruising around, managing that gap. And he was probably given a target time. How far can I drop back? What pace can I run at?
Right.
And make sure we've got enough of a gap to get to the finish and still win this thing and just save tires if necessary. And I'm sure they're giving him a target time of that number, just saying if you continue to do that, you'll not only win, you'll have some tires left in case there's a shootout.
And that's all part of the strategy, that you have to be thinking that far ahead. What can you do when things change up, as it does so often here in racing, as we hit 6 minutes to go. And Gottsager, last lap was a 2:02.5, about 2 seconds quicker than James, but an awful lot of distance, as you pointed out. But behind them, that's where things have the potential to be a little bit interesting. Stavely, who's running relatively quick laps, running quicker than Aschenbach, and is coming after him and he's only 0.7 of a second adrift. Let's see what it is this time by.
And importantly for Stavely, with that AM Class Championship lead, he'll gain a couple of points over Aurora Strauss, so I think I'll be up to 18 tomorrow. And that would probably mean if Stavely just gets past the 50% mark tomorrow, we'll have to work out the numbers tonight, Greg, but he may clinch just by scoring points tomorrow with the depth of the field.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Here comes Shimshak next into the shot. There's your battle. And this one is now for the 5th place overall. And for Stavely, it's not really going to change things unless he can get to Calvert, but it's an overall position. And this is just going to be a fun little scrap. And as an AM driver on one of the best drivers in the field, in terms of Lawson Aschenbach here. But that Ginetta, longer the race goes green, faster that thing gets relative to the other cars generally, because it's so light.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. It's a good little car, great team. Ian Lacey, good little driver himself, established the team, locally based, of course, and run with a 3G banner.
maybe of even more note here is the guy behind these two. There's Safronis. He's been running laps a second to a second and a half faster than both of these guys.
Yeah, big points gain.
You bet.
Talking about Walsh, I think he was down in 13th, 14th position.
Yep.
James has got to drug that number 14 up to the 7th, so that will minimize the damage a little bit with that championship lead.
If he can slice through both of these guys in the time left, and the pace he's been running has been quick enough to maybe do that.
It would be a 16-point lead that he and Walsh would go into the race tomorrow with, which is pretty significant.
As they stand now?
Yep.
So if he gets by these two cars, that'll be pushing 20, wouldn't it?
Yep.
So there's a pretty clear message, and James is closing, no question. Stavely gets a
there.
great run. Whoa.
He knows this racetrack like the back of his hand, an instructor here, of course. So if you want to learn the line, just watch to see where Drew is placing his car on this racetrack.
Now here might be the one spot where the Ginetta loses a little bit here in terms of straight line, because it's just got that V6 Ford in it. And as you would expect, the V8 Camaro eases away. And here comes Safronis. He's way over looking for that cooler, non-affected air, but also he's trying to get inside. Let's see if he does it. Watch as they come into the screen. Oh, Stavely floats a little bit wide. Safronis alongside.
Yeah, and he clears him, I think.
Yep. I think Stavely was saying, I don't need to get taken out. I'm in an AM battle. I want my points.
Big picture for both of those guys in their head. Different class championship on the line, but they're the leaders respectively.
Yep. Stavely's going, I'm not going to get to Preston without a lot of help here, and I don't want James to bump me trying to get to Lawson, so go. But for James, that point, that pass means more points. Because again, it's overall for the Pro-Am guys.
Well, Lawson Aschenbeck is not an easy driver to pass. He's got a lot of speed, certainly, and he'll recognize very much an outside chance at this championship with the lead.
Right.
And the deficit they had coming into this round, they were 32 points behind. So it's pretty much game over. So I'll be curious to see how he treats Safronis if he gets on the tail of this Camaro.
Yeah, that was the classic. They're mathematically in it, but reality-wise, maybe not so much. Meanwhile, we're going to pick up our overall leader, Ian James, in that number 50, Penos Avezzano, and looking to see they should be getting the white flag this time by, so that means he should be starting the final lap.
2:03.9 was the last lap. So that 2:04 number is the one that he's been targeting, and playing a little game with himself in terms of trying to see how close he can get to that. 2:04.5 that time, so just stroking it home as you can see the Sin coming on the front straightaway. Preston has not let him go, though, and Shimshak's a little bit closer to Calvert, so it could be a battle there for the overall podium there between the 34 and the 51.
Yeah, that's not decided yet, that's for sure, so that'll be fun. Meanwhile, look at Safronis on Aschenbach as they come up to get the white flag onto the front straight. A drag race here.
Well, if for Lawson Aschenbach, if he wants a chance in this championship tomorrow, he's got to take him out. That's the black and white of it, because right now it'd be a 31-point deficit, and you can't make that up in one round.
And of course, Safronis in his head is going, how much do I risk?
Yeah, how much do
this
I want
spot?
That point or two? Yeah,
exactly. And if it looks like I can get it clean, fine. But and I'm stunned with what we were hearing from James with the preservation issues and the slow mode and all of that being engaged from the heat.
Oh, there's your answer right there in terms of giving it up. That was a double move there, a little bit.
Maybe even a third one.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be the first one, and look at this. James Safronis wants that position badly.
More now than ever after that, and of course it's last lap, so Lawson's going, come on, it's last lap.
It's not that you're not allowed a double move, but you have to be doing it first.
Exactly, yeah. All right, as this battle continues, and James coming up the inside here, but that's not the quick way here, and has to tuck back in, and Lawson gets a couple of 3 car lengths here. Up the hill, through the attitudes, and James Safronis closes it up once again here. But we have our overall leader, Ian James, right now working his way into the final turn, release. And along with the release, I think, comes relief as he hits that front straight, and will put together another win here. And boy, have they been on form since Road America, where they swept. And here he does it. The Penos wins again. And Matt Keegan doing a superb job in the opening stint with Ian James bringing it home. Harry Gottsacker in the Sin, another solid drive, and here we go, this battle. And Sofronis, he came in so deep, I thought he might get into the back Aschenbach, and he hit the brakes hard and just killed his momentum. So Aschenbach will hang on for that fifth place finish. Sofronis will settle for sixth, but Preston Calvert, overall podium for mighty Preston Calvert here. Shimshak within a second, but just couldn't quite get it done. And then there you can see the number 12 of Stavely will finish second in the AM category. But more importantly for him, he finishes. Mark Clennon got in front of Aurora Strauss too, so there's even more of a swing late in the going in that one, Cal.
Yeah, there is. And looking at it, I think there's 20 points now between Stavely and Aurora Strauss. So we see some other runners heading for the stripe.
That was a race that had an awful lot of intrigue to it, with the mechanical questions and incidents and performance, and then just some downright fascinating racing.
I thought that was fascinating, the Sofronis.
Absolutely.
Aschenbach last lap and a half.
Yeah, that was right there the line. Almost a touch there for those guys as well. That was Bell and Omacht, I think, who have been locked in it for a large part of this race. So, yeah, you're right. That I think that'll be a fun conversation to try and eavesdrop on. But so the Ian James Gottsacker, and Shimshak would be the podium in the Pro-Am category. And Preston Calvert, Drew Stavely, and Mark Clennon the podium in the AM category. And let's see, Johnny O finishes in the 13th spot.
Yeah.
And Cooper, who was flying at certain points of the race. I think they may have used that up just a little bit, ended up 10th, which would be 6th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, and just looking at the Aschenbach or Cooper O'Connell,
right.
They're not going to be at the sharp end of the field tomorrow based on their fastest laps. And the difficulty with that is when you're quicker your pro guy gets in, obviously the tyres are used up a little bit in the second half of the race. So they weren't able to really lay down a quick one. But Aschenbach will be ahead of Cooper on the grid. He'll be ahead of O'Connell on the grid.
It looks as though it'll be James and Gottsacker starting on the front row. Oh, no. Yep, at 0.98 for Gottsacker. I don't see anybody underneath that in the twos, do you? So
Andy Lee had a really quick lap there.
Well, sure
towards the sharp end. That'll be a nice start for him tomorrow.
Absolutely. Remember, his teammate, Sabo, had that off with the number 2 of Jason Bell early in the race, so that just backed him up so far.
Colin Brown, a pretty nice lap too. He'll be towards, definitely up inside the top 10, coming off a couple of big prototype victories recently.
Well, that's one of the things we've seen in this Sprint X format is the opening half of that second race on a weekend where all the pros start this class, but in the GT category in particular.
It's a bit tasty.
It's totally tasty. So, and here comes Ian James. And Ian just controlled this beautifully, but I think maybe the story of the day could be Matt Keegan, that only guy to get sub 2 minutes, and clearly, even in that speed, was still able to give Ian James a car that he could control beautifully and bring this one home. I think this is starting to be a great relationship.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're good friends, and they're working well together with the race car. There's Tom Milner. Congratulating Ian. That'll probably be the easiest victory for Ian James that he's had in his tenure with this team, because they're typically hard-fought, but he just had to control that once Gottsacker served his penalty.
Yeah, well, he found somebody to do the heavy lifting for him, So let's take a look at the unofficial results, and you can see it as it plays out here. And obviously, Preston Calvert, that's just a fabulous result. Overall podium coming off his first AM win at the most recent round in Portland. So good run there. Unfortunately for Aurora Strauss, she just couldn't quite maintain the pace of some of the other teams and drivers around her and slipped back just a little bit. But nonetheless, still a great top 10 finish. And another race to go. And obviously we'll see that unfold tomorrow when things get going here. And for Aurora, lost a little bit of ground, but it's not done yet. And so let's get down and hear from our winners, Ian James and Matt Keegan.
Well, Ian, you've been with this Panoz Avezzano program pretty much from the beginning. A 1-2 and a sweep of both classes. How special is this accomplishment for you and for the team today?
It's a massive day for us. Like my teammate Matt Keegan here started the race, got it in the lead, and my job was just to keep it there, you know. So the tires were going away, the temperature's pretty hot here, but Panos 1-2 couldn't be happier. Great day for Don Panos.
And, man, you talked about your stint earlier. Did you think when you got out that you were in a position where you could get this thing finished, having Ian in the car at the end?
Well, we always hope that's the case, but you know, racing can be cruel. So I just was out there trying to do my job with what I had, and the team gave us a great car, and we were able to put it in the lead, and Ian was able to keep it there, and we finished 1-2. It was pretty cool.
It is indeed. Congratulations, guys. And let's go ahead and run down here and try and Preston in a 1 for Panos. You win in the AM class. It's a hot one out here, and you were behind the wheel for quite a while. How was that race for you?
Well, it was a very good race. There was a lot of difficulty, eventually getting by P1 and P2, but ultimately, we got that done. And then I just needed to maintain. It's very, very hot in the cockpit today, and the car is fairly good with its tires, so they were really going away in the last, say, 7 or 8 laps. But it was good until then.
It was a historic day for Panos. Congratulations on your part in it, and best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thanks to the Panos, thanks to my wife, Meg Guerin Calvert, for letting me do this. Thank you.
Well, that's a good point. When you've got a big thumping V8 that sits in front of you on a hot day like this, that radiates to you.
Oh, it goes right up through the firewall, comes through the pedals, your feet are burning.
Yeah.
It's just nasty.
Miserable.
It is, but when you're getting the win, it kind of gives you a little bit of inspiration.
So, yeah, absolutely. That adrenaline is a beautiful thing, isn't it, sometimes? So, well, that wraps up today's coverage of this 7th round of the Pirelli World Challenge GTS Sprint X Championship. Again, we got the final round of the Sprint X coming up tomorrow. We've got a lot more unfolding here yet today. Stay with us. Coming up here in about 15 minutes, we will have the first of the 2 TCR-TCA races for the Pirelli World Challenge Series, right here live on the web and live with you on XM. So stay put. We'll be right back with you.